And welcome back to another episode of Dan Tony Sports. My name is Dan Snyder, joined tonight by my good friend Dan Beebie. Tonight we got the two Dan band. We don't have the other Dan. We don't have Tony. So it's just Dan Beebie and I doing our thing. And when the other two aren't here, you know what that means, right? We can talk wrestling.
Yeah.
You ready to talk some wrestling, Beebie?
Let's do it. Change it up.
Alright, so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to do our 5 favorite wrestlers of all time, and then our 5 least favorite wrestlers of all time. So what I'm doing for my list is going to be how I felt about the wrestlers at the time that I felt that way about them. Like, I'm not going to go back, look at them, and be like, all right, so maybe I like them less than I did then. So me knowing now what I know and how weird some things are. When I was a kid, I liked The Godfather. Now it's kind of weird. Yeah. So I'm going to go with things on my list at the time that they had happened. All right?
Cool. Yep.
So, what do you want to do first? Do you want to start with our most favorite or our least favorite?
Let's do least favorite first.
All right, and just like we've done with our previous top 5s, we're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2. If you have an honorable mention, throw that honorable mention in, and then number 1, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, why don't you start? Who is your number 5 least favorite wrestler of all time, and why?
Number 5, I'd probably have to go with the Hurricane. I never really got the whole appeal of this, his storyline.
The Hurricane. Watch out. A hurricane coming.
Gregory Helms. I mean, it just seemed kind of generic. It didn't really seem, creative. It's just like, okay, that was good.
Now, did that change? Did your mind change when they put Molly Holly, aka Mighty Molly, in a package with him? Did that make it worse? Did that make it better? Like, what were your thoughts on that? Like, did that just keep it the same? Was there no change? You didn't like it more? You didn't dislike it more? It is what it is. How did adding Mighty Molly to that change your opinion?
Not really overall. I mean, I thought, honestly, that he was probably better off just being Gregory Helms for the time being.
Okay, so you liked Helms, the wrestler. You didn't like his character of Hurricane.
Right. I think he could have just done without that from the beginning.
Right. When he came over, I think, for me, you're right. I don't like him either. I think a big part of it stems from the fact that he was one of the guys that came over with WCW during the Invasion storyline, and they didn't bring over the big guys, and the big-named wrestlers that came from WCW came over before. So Jericho, Benoit, Malenko, Saturn, Guerrero, they all came over prior to the fall of WCW, and then when WCW got bought by Vince, he was one of the guys that was brought into the Invasion storyline, and it just fell flat because it was guys like Mike Awesome, Lance Storm, the Hurricane, Helms. There was a lot of letdown. I feel like if he were brought in part of a package with better wrestlers, if he came over with the NWO, I think for me that would change my opinion of him.
Yeah.
But I completely agree with your number 5. It was rough. He's a good wrestler. He's good at what he does. He just, you're right. I didn't find him entertaining as the Hurricane either. So that's a very good one. I didn't even think of him. So I guess he clearly wouldn't have cracked my top 5 for my least favorite, but that's a good choice.
Yeah, it's going back. I mean, not as as far as back as like whole attitude, but early 2000s ish. So, yeah.
I did, however, like Molly Holly. Didn't like when they made her Mighty Molly. I feel like that was a stupid repackaging, kind of like what they did with Cody, made him Stardust. I feel like they took something that was good and was working and just made it garbage.
Yeah, and then they had the whole. Well, I think they tried to sort of, it was what, Team Rhodes Scholars, and then he became Stardust, I recall.
I mean, after Rhodes Scholars, he was teaming with his brother. It was Cody and Goldust.
Yeah.
And then they made him Stardust. Like, wasn't it right after his father died they made him Stardust?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. And then it was, had him do the whole heel turn on Dustin, so, yeah.
Yep, so very, very good pick with the Hurricane being your number 5 least favorite wrestler of all time. I'm about to get yelled at, I feel. But going over to me now, my number 5 is Matt Hardy. I hated Matt Hardy as a singles competitor. His shit with Edge was just stupid, and it brought in too much of his real life issues into wrestling. Then his issues with Jeff, and then he feuded with a couple of other people not prominent. His music sucked. His character was just terrible. He was clearly a guy that was better as a tag team wrestler than he was as a singles individual wrestler. I just... Even when he came back to WWE and he did... Or when he was with TNA, did the broken Matt Hardy and then the knockoff woke Matt Hardy. I feel like his character was more interesting, but him in the ring was not. I'm not a fan of Matt Hardy's wrestling style when he is an individual wrestler. As a tag team wrestler, completely different. When he was with Jeff, completely different team. All right, even when he was with Bray Wyatt, completely different team. But Matt Hardy on his own, easily my number 5 least favorite wrestler of all time.
Oh, interesting.
All right, let's move on to number 4. Dan Beebie, who is your number 4 least favorite wrestler of all time?
Honestly, I'd probably have to go with Steven Richards. I thought it was, kind of unique when they did the whole, right to censor thing, but then after, trying to make him like his own, character, so to speak, was...
Oh, he was so hardcore, though.
Yeah.
Back before right to censor, man, he was just a monster, taking fucking licking after licking, just getting his ass beat and getting back up. I mean, continue on, but I disagree with you on this one. Continue. Why else didn't you like him?
And so, in a sense, he was kind of like a prior Bo Dallas character, right? In the sense that he just take punishment.
I wouldn't say he was like a Bo Dallas character. Steven Richards was definitely way more hardcore than Bo Dallas was. Steven Richards did his time in ECW, got his ass beat all over the world. I mean, I wouldn't put Steven Richards up there as a hardcore legend, but he is definitely a hardcore wrestler.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, I think they just kind of, made him go south towards the end, especially remember at the end when it was, he was just like on kind of like the secondary shows like Sunday Night Heat, and he just, kind of just faded. So.
Yeah, I mean, that that was the problem with WWE at the time, is they had so many bad shows. They had Velocity, they had Heat, they had Superstars, they had Main Event, and you got to see guys like Steven Richards on there all the time because they just had so much talent that they had to put guys like him and Funaki and Taka Michinoku somewhere because you can't leave them off TV. They're good, but when you've got like the New Age Outlaws versus just anyone really, New Age Outlaws are a team that really made it work. When you got New Age Outlaws versus the Headbangers, when you've got D'Lo Brown versus Ken Shamrock, when you've got guys that are so good at what they do, and you have guys that are also so good at what they do, but they're not guys that you have plans for and really pushing, it's really hard to get them TV time.
True, yeah. I guess the fact that, as you get older too, they fade you out. But
yeah, I mean, Steven Richards, in my opinion, is, I wouldn't say one of the best wrestlers I've ever watched, but he's definitely on my list. He's up there with guys that did a great job with the company, with their roles. Kind of like Zack Ryder. He knows what his job is. He does his job, and he doesn't complain. That's the same way I feel about Steven Richards.
Sort of like the workhorse, so to speak.
Right.
No. Yeah, granted.
All right.
How about you? What's yours?
All right, so
you got at number 4?
Again, I'm going to get shit for this one. My number 4 least favorite wrestler of all time is Bill Goldberg. All right. He's just a fucking meathead. He can't wrestle. And he is terrible. He almost killed The Undertaker 2 years ago. All right. We were watching it in my living room. Because I had my what's it called? My
surgery there.
Yeah, I had my dental surgery. Yes. Yeah, and you came over and babysat me. We were watching it.
Less.
Yeah, we were watching it. I don't remember. Was it Crown Jewel or was that Greatest Royal Rumble? I think it was Greatest Royal Rumble. But
yeah, because it was on a Friday, I believe.
Yeah, either way. It just... He never really took the time or the effort to learn how to actually wrestle. People say that John Cena only knows a few moves. If you put John Cena next to Bill Goldberg, Cena looks like the greatest technical wrestler ever. Beside Goldberg. Goldberg knows how to put shoulders into people, spear them, punch them, hit them with a jackhammer. That's it. That's it. That's all Bill Goldberg can do. And there was a WCW episode where him and William